Canada's largest school board is once again delaying the start of some of its virtual classes. The problem really comes down to a case of supply and demand. There are tens of thousands of students who have enrolled for online learning. The board is struggling to hire enough qualified teachers. So that means some students will have to wait a little longer to log on for a virtual class. Want to figure out what is going on here. And with us this morning, Ryan Bird, who's the manager of corporate and social media relations with the Toronto District School Board. So their public representative, and he is in Toronto for us this morning. Ryan, thank you for being our guest.
Morning, Heather.
Can we begin with a status update, Ryan? Number one, how many students in your district want online learning? What's the latest number? And of those, how many don't have teachers this morning?
So overall, we have about 78,000 students that are taking part in the TDSB virtual school, which if you look at total enrollment, that's larger than most school boards across Ontario. On the elementary side, we have about 60,000 students, and we don't have an exact number. We do know that thousands of them will be starting today with that live interactive learning with a teacher in a virtual classroom. However, because of the staffing process and just the amount of teachers, as you said off the top, that we need, everyone will not be able to do that today. And that's where we'll be having asynchronous or that independent work at your own pace materials available on our website, along with some live sessions to get up and running on their learning platform over the next couple of days until we can get those teachers assigned.
Okay, so you don't know the exact number who are going to log on or who have already logged on this morning? You don't know exactly how many are going to find they don't have a teacher?
Yeah, and that's the difficulty. Because of the staffing process, we literally are having staff onboarded last night to be prepared, over the weekend and then this morning to make sure that they're in place. So we don't have an exact number. I should have that number this morning, but given this process, people have been working through the night getting everyone up and running. We just don't have exact numbers. Obviously, tens of thousands will start today, but it is possible that tens of thousands may not. And that's where we should be able to get up and running in the next day or two for many of them.
Why aren't there enough teachers for those tens of thousands who don't this morning?
And that's a fair question. We have hundreds and hundreds of teachers on our occasional teacher or supply list. We're going through that list to see, can you teach X class, grade 3 virtual classroom? Unfortunately, we don't always get those responses immediately, whether it takes some time for people to get to it or they want to think about it or what have you. So, for example, yesterday, the numbers that we used were we needed about 2,200 teachers overall for our 60,000 elementary students, and we needed 500. Just last night, I got an update that we got another 300. So now we're looking at 200 teachers left to go on the elementary side, and we anticipate that number even getting further reduced later on today. So we're hoping to have these staff onboarded, trained on our online learning platform in the next day or so we can get thousands more students in a virtual classroom.
You keep coming back to elementary. What's the secondary situation?
Well, and that's good because we have about 18,000, obviously not as many on the elementary side, but about 18,000 secondary students starting virtual school today, nearly 800 teachers, and that will be starting on time today. It's just given quite frankly, the sheer volume of elementary students that, really posed a challenge for us. I can tell you overall, out of the 78,000 we have in virtual school, at one point a couple of weeks ago, that was at 56,000. Then it went up to 66,000 and then in the low 70s and now 78,000. So, it's been a moving target over the last couple of weeks.
And if you're just looking at your supply list, is that the only pool of teachers that you're able to access for new teachers?
It would be the pool that starts that we start through that list, through our supply list, and that will take a majority. Obviously, if for some reason that is not enough, then we can look elsewhere, potentially to new teachers. But we always start with that significant OT list first.
So it's not a question of money to hire them, it's a question of finding the numbers that you need. How expert will these teachers be in online learning when you even get them?
Well, first, we want to make sure, obviously, they're going to be qualified teachers. If they're qualified to teach a certain elementary panel or a high school panel, we want to make sure that they're qualified to do that. If they're teaching a certain class or subject, we want to make sure they're qualified to do that. Admittedly, the time that it takes to familiarize themselves with the online learning platform is crunched, just given the fact that we really need them to be activated now. But even the teachers that we identified yesterday will still take a few days to come online, as we want to make sure they're not only onboarded as an employee, but also trained on the Brightspace platform. That's the online platform that we're using for our online learning.
You know, anecdotally, we're hearing some of our morning news team members, some teachers whom we know, who didn't find out until yesterday or early this week about, well, that is early this week, about what they'd even be teaching. They can't prepare adequately to bring a quality of education to their classes, and they're not happy about this as well.
And quite frankly, we're not happy about it either. We've taken a staffing process that would typically take months, and we've crunched it down to about 2 or 3 weeks. So we knew the timelines were going to be very tight. We knew that we weren't going to be able to give a lot of lead time for both staff and or students and families. But we're unfortunately just dealing with the cards that we've been dealt. It is unfortunate.
But what cards are those, Ryan? I don't understand who's dealt you these cards. I mean, if you go into any parent chat room, and I can't even imagine the kinds of comments you're getting directly there from parents, but you know, you hear things, have had almost 7 months to figure this out, TDSB, as I look at direct quotes that we're pulling. Frustrating, ridiculous, this is unbelievable. The delay is very frustrating. I'm still waiting for a call from a teacher. But again, the point of you've had almost 7 months to figure this out. How do you say we're dealing with the cards we're dealt?
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. I understand as parents that is, and staff, it is frustrating. We wanted to tell them this weeks ago, but our staffing process was based on a registration process at the board so that we could find out who was going virtual, who was going in person, and really we didn't get that information until 3 weeks ago, because we needed to give them, we wanted to get the latest information from parents so that we could staff accordingly. So it's not something that, while obviously the board has been planning for months overall about the return to school, the actual staffing process is what is so complex, and we're really based on numbers from a few weeks ago. Add to that the fact that we've gone up by about 20,000 students just in the last couple of weeks on virtual learning, and it came to the perfect storm of, you know, obviously people going to virtual, but we need the teachers to follow them, and that's what's been very difficult as we plan through this process.
One of the other comments you get is that I feel that, not I personally, but a parent writing to say that I feel that the virtual school is a bit of an afterthought. And I'm wondering what you would say to those parents who hold that view, and to the students who've already suffered from having not had months of classes, who are just going to be further left behind by this.
Well, I can tell you that it's not that case. I know they've been working on this for weeks and weeks now, through the night, through weekends, trying to get this up and running. The difficulty, though, it comes down to the numbers. You know, at first we anticipated 50-odd thousand people, which is enormous on the planning and staffing side. But then to grow that by over 20,000 over the last week and a half, likely, it's just very difficult to be able to staff accordingly.
So when do you expect to have this all sorted? Are we talking weeks or are we talking days here?
I think it's a matter of days. So, for example, the 300 teachers that we learned yesterday would be coming online. It will take a couple of days to onboard them, make sure that they're trained up in our online learning platform, and they should start coming online into those virtual classrooms tomorrow and Thursday. We're hoping to get most, if not all, conducted this week and started. But we should have a better idea probably later on today and into tomorrow whether that will be a reality for this week. But a majority of students will be online in their virtual classrooms this week.
Okay, I will. We will certainly be checking back with you as days go on, as the day goes on. But before I let you go, just very quickly, just to clarify, is there a pool of qualified teachers big enough to fill the needs that you have right now in the TDSB?
Yes, that's my understanding, is that we do have enough teachers, and we're going through that list now. So the 200 that we need as of right now is expected to get even further reduced later on today. So it sounds like we're in good shape at this point.
All right. We'll be back in touch. I appreciate your time and your explanation of things, Ryan. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Ryan Bird from the Toronto District School Board this morning.